No sympathy from the lads. Right, I think now I might chance a little bit of the hairdryer on this area here. I just want to dry it. Lots of wild animals in the lower part of Mount Kenya, buffalo and elephant and others, and even the odd lion, which you don't particularly want to bump into as you go through the jungle at the bottom. But on the way down I did encounter some buffalo, and the guides who were with me at the time was on their own. So I had to be a bit careful, but I managed to get some sketches of them before the lads appeared. But that was very exciting. So what I want to do now is make this peak so much stronger. So I could, if I wanted to, use masking fluid over the cottage, and that would sort of keep the actually, I think I will, because it's so much easier to apply it. Get around the. It's so much easier to work around the cottage with masking fluid when you've got masking fluid on there. I don't use it that often, but on this occasion I have a brush marked here, which tells me that's the one I use for the masking fluid. What I do is use Prevail drawing gum, and it's rather good because I'm putting it over the moon glow that I've put on the roof, and it should be okay.
That's all right, carry on.
You're not missing anything. This is the boring bit where I'm just putting masking fluid on. Anybody who's not familiar with masking fluid, it's a rubbery solution that you apply over the white paper or whatever.
Steve is back.
Steve is back.
Right. There we are. I can put a few little highlights also on the wall, perhaps. So I like to this is one of those old shampoo things that you get in hotels where you can't get the last bits out. So what do you do with them? You use them for cleaning your brushes. It's nice to be recycling things at the same time. So now I can swish and brush with gay abandon over this cottage. What I want to do is to make it a bit lighter over here and dark over here. So I want to have some quinacridone gold ready, and I'm going to use the Sodalite Genuine. So a nice big pool of liquid colour, and I've got a bit on the paper here. Right, so let's see how it goes. This is going to be really dark. This is a squirrel mop. So I'm going over some of the lines I've put down here earlier, because it doesn't matter because that's going to be even darker. I'm going over the cottage there, and then bringing in the quinacridone gold over here. It doesn't show it up very much because it's I've still got a lot of this dark and dire stuff on the brush. So it's looking pretty grim at the moment. So now I'm going to drop in some Salo blue. And you can see it granulating there amazingly. So it really does granulate quite strikingly. So again, I'm darkening a part of the scene over here. And then bringing in some yellow ochre into the lower part. I love yellow ochre because it's a little bit of a bully, and it's really great for dropping into colours that are still wet. And it just flows away, it pushes other colours out of the way. It's very exciting. So right, now what I want to do is to, using a tissue, I'm just going to pull out some crags on the peak here. I'm probably in the way, am I? Do say if I'm in the way. And we'll have one or two over there as well. And you can change. You can do this with clouds and all sorts of things. We won't do too many of these because the thing is sometimes when these techniques work really well and you get really excited about them, you want to put it all over the place. It just gets a bit too much. So try to resist the urge to do that if you can. What you can do if you want to soften edges, and I do that with there's hardly any water on it. It's just very, very damp, this brush. But I'm just softening the bottom of these little bits I put in. And a few little darker bits here and there. The paintings I've got behind me are, there's a couple there that are pure watercolour, but the others, if you look at them carefully, you'll see I've used various other materials, like Daniel Smith watercolour ground and collage into them, and have a look at them, and hopefully they'll give you one or two ideas, because let's face it, when we're painting a lot in watercolour or the other mediums, we sometimes get a little bit sort of in a bit of a rut. And it's really good to have some new ideas for approaching the painting. So do have a look and read the captions. So I'm just making these crags look a little bit more crag-like. What I use is a #1 rigger for this sort of thing, if I can find it. I don't seem to have it. Oh yes, there it is. The rigger is a lovely brush, and I'm using something murky here. I think it's burnt umber with a touch of solder-like genuine. And what I do with the brush, I'll show you over here, is with the rigger, I drag it across the paper, twirl it between first finger and thumb, and get to a really fine point. And this is a sable rigger. And these are really good brushes, and a few pennies more than the synthetic riggers. Not very much, but they're so much better. They really are good. And most of the brushes I'm using are Rosemary & Co. ones. Superb brushes. Now that's a little bit too strong there, that line. So what I do is use my finger and get rid of the really strong stuff. And what I tend to do is put more pressure on the brush in places and take it off in others. So I get a varied line. That makes it much more interesting. So these are the fissures, the fracture lines, and the crags. I'll just put 1 or 2 over here. I don't want to overdo it. It's so easy to overwork these little bits of detail if you're not careful. And I just love rocks. Rocks and water are my favourite things. So I could go on all night just doing this because it's such great fun. But that's where the danger is.
Can you bring your head back a bit?
Oh yes, sure. Sorry. I'm just taking out a little bit of the strength of this tone here. I've always been interested in wildlife. Quite a number of African trips, but it was really only when I went to the Arctic and did quite a lot in the Arctic that I met some of the wildlife there that I really got quite excited about it. And animals like the walrus, for example, is a really splendid model. Best model you could ask for, really. They just sit there or lie there for hours in one position. You have to put up with all sorts of rude noises. They are terrific models, and then they move over and into another position for another hour or so, and they don't mind that you're there. And when they come out of the water, it's very interesting because their colours are changing all the time as they're drying in the sunshine, and they've got these amazing chests where they're pink and tattered, textured, and sort of battered by the tusks of the other walrus where they've been fighting and that sort of thing. And they're just lovely creatures to work with. You don't seem to mind you being there. Right, so it's you can see the blue there. It's sort of making a little bit of variation in the overall wash, and it's worth doing that even sometimes when it's not there. It's what I call a rogue colour. So I put in a red or an orange or something that's not actually there sometimes, and it really does work quite well to create a bit of variation. Otherwise it's just too much of the same thing. I'll have to leave the masking fluid on for a little while, but I don't want to use the hairdryer just yet because it's still a bit damp. But you can see the granulations that you get with these colours. And what you can do with something like sort of like Genuine, which really does granulate amazingly, you can mix it with other colours. You can bring reds and all sorts of things into it to make it a little bit more sort of, well, less sort of grim and gloomy perhaps. So try that. I will be doing a little bit more, bringing in a little bit more texture into the mountain later on, but for the moment I want to sort of work on this area now.
Is it transparent as well? Because you seem to have gone back to the white of the paper very well.
Yes, it's brought it out quite well. The transparency of the sort of like Genuine, it's a sort of semi-opaque, I think, this one. It's
non-staining.
No, it's not a staining colour. I can get rid of it fairly easily. But it's a great colour if you want strong darks. So I'm going to use some more yellow ochre now in the foreground. I've still got some sort of like Genuine on the brush. This is like a sort of base colour, a light colour that I often put on the foreground, leaving bits of white here and there where I want, in this case, the rocks to show through. Now bringing in some transparent red oxide. This is a lovely warm colour. I use it a lot in place of light red. I still use light red in some instances, but this is such a more, it's more transparent, and it's an amazing colour, especially for this time of year where you want autumn scenes. I'll bring some red in there. Go on again. You're not really missing anything. This is, I'm just softening some of the edges with the damp brush. I've never really been keen on using green straight out of tubes, but this one is a little bit different, and it's, oh, I've got some on the palette, I don't really need some now. This is called Green Appetite Genuine. They got some lovely names. There's Minnesota Pipestone and all sorts. But they've searched the world for all sorts of minerals for new colours, and some of these colours are just really so dramatic, and they create these wonderful granulations. They give you wonderful textures. And with this Green Appetite Genuine, the marvellous thing about it is it's a good colour, but also it granulates like mad. And so when you're doing summer trees, for example, it does half the job for you. It creates all those lovely interstices between the leaves and the various dark and light sort of areas of the foliage. So here we are. And it granulates. it depends on how, if you make it really strong, then it really does granulate amazingly. So we'll just put a little bit. The trouble with green is that it's a very civilizing colour for mountain work, so I tend not to use it that often. But it's just nice to have a little patch of it now, here and there perhaps, where you've got a building like this. And we'll add a little bit of cadmium yellow light in there. I often do this, bring in a brighter colour close to the focal point, where I want to draw the eye in. The thing that draws the eye in most of all is the contrast of tones. Like you put your lightest tone, which would be the paper, against your darkest tone, which might well be sort of like genuine, then you've really got something that'll draw the eye in. But also putting bright colours in helps. So a touch of cadmium yellow light in here. Number 4 brush now, and some burnt umber and sodalite genuine. It's just this bush here in by the outbuilding. I'm putting in some of the transparent red oxide, dead leaves.